Good lunch. Good lunch. Went a little long, but back to work. I actually have been working for like a couple minutes. Um, I went ahead and got rid of MetaMask altogether, and instead I'm now using a local Geth node that I started up. So let's find that here. Okay, so here's the Geth node. So Geth is a Ethereum client. Um, it essentially is replaced. Before I was using Truffle Develop. So I was using Truffle. It has a develop feature. Truffle Develop starts up a Geth node, but that Geth node is like pre-configured. And right now you don't have the ability to configure it any additional amount. So instead, I decided to start up my own local Geth node, which gives me the ability to configure it as much as I wish. So I went ahead and did that. And as part of that process, I just completely removed MetaMask. So you'll notice I'm not running any MetaMask plugin in Chrome anymore. To do so, you have to unlock all of the accounts that belong to the Geth node. That sounds confusing, I know. But essentially now I can do all type of operations inside the actual app, like spend money, call contracts, all that kind of good stuff, without having to actually approve it through MetaMask. So it just kind of removes that difficulty of MetaMask. It is good and bad because it makes the development process a little bit easier, but on the downside, it doesn't really mimic how your users are going to use the app. Like users are always going to be running MetaMask or something equivalent. So it's good for development, bad for like actually testing your app in a realistic setting. But right now I really want to just get stuff working. And so I'm much more concerned about like building the app out and just having stuff function correctly. So that's what we are up to right now. But with Geth, now I'm using Geth and I'm not using MetaMask. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of troubleshooting to make sure that some of the basic stuff still works. Like for example, right here, I'm trying to create a new contract. And when I click create right here, you'll notice that I get a string of requests being issued. So these are all HTTP requests that are being issued to my local Geth node right now. So if you look at each of these requests, they're going to 127, or basically localhost port 8545. That's where my local Geth node is. And you can look at the request body, or response body in this case. This is JSON RPC, which is basically just a communication format. And you can see very plainly here, we've got like an ID of 1. We've got some result array here. So like stuff is definitely happening. Let's see what else we got. Okay, here's like ID 2. We've got a result here as well. So stuff is definitely occurring, but it appears that the code that was working with MetaMask before is now not working correctly with Geth. Specifically, when I clicked that create button, even though something just happened right here. So something definitely happened here. We saw these requests pop up, but usually when I was using MetaMask before, clicking on create right here should redirect me back over to the campaign list. And right now that's clearly not happening at all. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of troubleshooting to figure out what's going on. I did run into an issue yesterday. I can do a quick check here to see if this is the issue. So I ran into an issue yesterday where this new contract thing, I'm basically deploying a contract right here. I'm creating a new one, deploying it out. This is using a library called Truffle Contract. And it turns out that Truffle Contract actually currently has a bug where creating a new contract does not ever like resolve the promise that is being created. And I solved that yesterday by using someone's fork of this library where they just went in and fixed it manually. But it appears that fork, I don't know, this seems like it's the same behavior as what that fork was supposed to solve. So I think the first thing I'm gonna do is make sure that I'm still using that fork and that I did not accidentally mess something up along the way. So here's Truffle Contract. It still has the .git folder inside of it because I just manually cloned this thing in. So I suspect I'm still using the correct version of Truffle Contract. That's good. But still, we're not correctly getting any type of callback here. So maybe the next thing that I'll do is add in a callback rather than relying on the promise that this thing is supposed to return. Let's see how the callback works. Right now, if I go back to the campaign list right here, no campaigns show up, although I really suspect that the contract did successfully deploy. So another, basically the call, these callbacks or the promise resolution is just not working. So again, when I click on create right here, I make a request to my backend server to get the raw contract file. Here it is right here. I then make request to deploy the contract. Hopefully, if we look at preview right here, not preview, but the request itself. So this should be fetching my list of accounts, likely. Next one, that's an options request. Here we go. So this one's just looking for the net version. This is definitely making me feel like I was incorrect. It's really making me feel like the contract is not successfully being deployed. Let's take out all this deploy logic and see if that string of requests is still being issued. So I'm curious if these 4 requests that we see right here are a part of the actual deployment of the contract right here or not. Felipe, what's my thoughts on Formic to create React forms? I've never looked at Formic. Let's take a look at it. So basically just another form library. Let's look at the README. Yeah, the first thing I was going to say is you should use Redux form. So just reading these notes right here, calling top level or calling reducers on every single keystroke. I don't really care about point number 1 here. What I really care about is point number 2. I kind of suspect let's look at sync validation and see how it works. Felipe, my very first inclination here is that this thing might well, let me look at this code first and then we'll arrive at some type of conclusion. I'll let that run for a little bit. I'll come back over to the form, Felipe, in just a minute. We'll take a look at it. I'm going to take a look at this in the meantime. Okay, so it looks like we do not make any requests when we attempt to deploy the contract. That is actually not good at all. So only when I attempt to deploy the contract does stuff start to kick in here. So let's do this again. 100. Okay, so we get absolutely nothing at all. Yeah, that's a super not good. So what could be going wrong here? So the only thing I did was change out the back end. Technically, I'm using a different instance of Web3 now, because previously Web3 library is injected by MetaMask, but I just removed MetaMask, so that's not around anymore. Let's take a look, because the way in which the Web3 is generated, the actual library, depends on whether or not MetaMask is present. So let's take a look at that real quickly. All right, so here's this right here is taking care of the case where we're working with MetaMask. This is when we're using a custom local function. This right here is a workaround for some I think this was a workaround for WebSockets not working correctly. Let's take this out and go back to just the base configuration here. The other thing is that HTTP provider right here, I kind of guessed at. I'm not sure if that's actually accurate, so maybe we'll come back to that as well and fix that thing up. So let's try this again. Okay, yep, so that was definitely it. Or at least one possible thing. So we now have an invalid address. So that's probably because web3.eth accounts right here, where I'm trying to deploy the contract, is not defined. Let's take out that callback as well. So let's look at web3.eth.accounts. So it definitely is defined. Why would it think that it's not defined? Maybe at call time it's not defined. Let's console log web3 counts at 0. See what that looks like. All right, let's look at this form thing. Okay, my form. Okay, that all looks similar. So how is the form stuff actually getting put in here? My enhanced form. So validate, handle, submit. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Felipe, yeah, I think I'm going to go with my initial kind of inkling or thought on this form thing right here. It really looks like, so you're going to use this rather than Redux form. I think that using Formic for any small form on any small application is 100% appropriate. Where I can almost guarantee you that you're going to run into trouble is if you start to work on a large application where you want to have like a multi-step form, like a type of wizard, or any time where you might want to have like a lot of computed values that are displayed in like different parts of the application based on one form input. In other words, if you're working on a large project, I would kind of recommend going with Redux form as opposed to this thing. The entire idea of Redux form is that you're saving your form state at the Redux level, and that by definition makes all that form state available to the entire application very easily. Whereas with this, it looks like it's all written around, assuming you're working with React, and assuming that you want to localize the form state to some like very specific forms. So that would be my very quick takeaway there. Felipe, I think you had said that all you had wanted to do was put together a contact form. If that's it, you should feel totally fine using Formic. Although, to be honest, if you're just putting together a contact form, I would kind of just stick to raw React, if anything. I don't know that you really need Formic if it's really just like an email input that you're trying to take. All right, so let's try this again. Okay, so that's better. So this now really thinks that our account is not unlocked, even though it very much should be unlocked. That was a part of my get script that I put together. So here's the get script right here. This is what starts up the local geth instance. We are definitely supplying the correct password here. There's the password, 1234. I think that we need to look at, see, accounts, return, console exec, await, promise all. Let's do a try here and see if something's going wrong during this phase. So when we use MetaMask, accounts that are bound to MetaMask are like unlocked. In other words, you can make transactions from an account that's bound to MetaMask. MetaMask will pop up. It'll say, hey, do you want to confirm this thing? And then the fact that you press yes allows MetaMask to essentially like just make things happen. It unlocks your account temporarily, authorizes the transaction, everything's good to go. When you start using geth locally, the easiest way to use geth is to like kind of semi-permanently unlock your account. And so you basically say, hey, if anyone wants to make access to my account and withdraw money or send money or whatever, just let it happen. And that's definitely what you want to have happen when you are using geth in a test environment. You just want these requests to go through and not have to worry about approving the transaction. And so this geth script that I have right here is attempting to unlock all the personal accounts that exist inside the application. But at present, it really seems like that is not at all functioning correctly, which is no good. And sorry, I'm basing that on this error right here, where it says I have to unlock the account that I'm trying to make access to. So the script should have been unlocking everything, but really appears that is not the case. So right now we've got node successfully started, but we're kind of hanging right there. What command? We got to just restart this command. Get start. Let's do geth accounts list. So these are all the accounts that I have generated. So there's definitely an appropriate number here. Start geth back up. I am printing out too much information right now. Let's kill that. All right, so like supposedly this stuff is getting unlocked. Like this right here should be unlocking these accounts. This is the first time I've actually tried making use of this get script with unlocked accounts, so perhaps I made a mistake when I had originally put the thing together. That's entirely possible. Let's redeploy a contract and see what happens. All right. Intrinsic gas too low. Well, that's a better error to have, I suppose. Gas too low. Why would our gas be too low? As a professional learner, doing exactly what I do right now. This is how I learn this stuff. Basically, I just think of some small project and I just go and build it and just struggle through it as best I can. Casey, I wouldn't say that I'm smart so much as just determined. I don't know that I even love it. I wouldn't go so far. This project in particular, so I'm working on Crowdfund right now. No, Kickstart. So I've already built like variations of this app twice before as like Crowdfund and Crowdfund React. Those were mostly about getting the contract logic down, because as you guys have seen me, I haven't really been touching the contract, like the Ethereum contract at all. Where is it? Right here. So here's the actual contract. So I spent a lot of time like developing the contract and going through a lot of variations on that. So it's only now that I'm actually getting over to the React side and hooking all this stuff up. So our play, to answer your question again, it's like just doing exactly this right here. This is how I really absorb this stuff. And then the other thing that I do that really helps is knowing that I eventually want to make a course about this stuff. It sets, like in my mind, I just sit here thinking about making a course and I imagine some of the questions that are going to come up. And I expect to get questions about really challenging things like, how do I do XYZ? Where XYZ is some like really important but challenging thing. And so since I have some reasonable idea of what people are going to want to learn about, it just forces me to really dive into the hardest parts right away so that I know that I can answer those questions. Like that's a real big important thing too. Blake, can I build this on my iPhone? So my expectation with React Native with Ethereum, like if you want to do React Native, if that's what you're asking about, I don't think that's going to be a great match just yet for a variety of reasons. I do think that web is the place to focus on right now. A great like middle ground, I would say, if you want to have a great mobile experience with an Ethereum app, what I would probably do is direct you towards like a hybrid app using basically a progressive web app. I think that's what I would do. I can only make websites on my iPhone. Yeah, right now I think you're gonna have a much easier time working with Ethereum like solely in a web environment. So that you can totally view the website on your phone. To be honest, I just haven't really looked at how Ethereum wallets are managed on iPhone. I suspect that Ethereum on Android is going to be really straightforward. But I think iPhone still needs a little bit of development. That's my understanding right now, but right now my focus is 100% on web side of things as opposed to React Native stuff. I did consider putting together like a small React Native Ethereum app as part of this Ethereum course, but I'm kind of unsold. I just don't know yet. I'm not 100% sure. I got to still like firm up some stuff and decide on what the real content. Blake, is Ethereum a coin? Whoa, man, what a good question that is. That is the best question to ask. Like, is Ethereum a coin? So when people talk about Ethereum, right, we talk about Ethereum, and the first thing that comes to mind is like, these are coins, right? Like we're working with coins here, and coins are worth US dollars, and that's the popular sentiment. Ethereum is a coin, and that's the only purpose of it. We use it to hold value, nothing else. Like that's it. That is completely false, not accurate at all. the US dollar value, or not even US dollar, but the dollar value of coins is a total like tertiary side concern, something that is so irrelevant when you start thinking about Ethereum apps. Like just when you start thinking about Ethereum applications and building them, don't even be thinking about US dollars. That is not the purpose. Or I keep saying US dollars, but don't be thinking about like real currency. That is not the purpose of Ethereum and Ethereum coins. So I've been spending like, I don't know, 2 weeks or so trying to put together the most like succinct definition of what Ethereum is used for. And I'm not sure that I can give you like a perfect crystal clear definition just yet. So I'm just going to kind of let you get a stream of consciousness here, I suppose. The best way to think of Ethereum is like, think of Ethereum coins, Ether. The best way to think of that as like a currency that buys you computational power. So that's like, that's not crystal clear. So I got to like refine that definition a little bit. So let's take a look at a more practical example. So here is some code that defines an Ethereum contract. Okay, and Blake, I see your follow-up question here about blockchain technology. I'll tell you in just a second. So this is a contract that will be deployed to the Ethereum blockchain. The blockchain will execute code inside of this contract, and then we can essentially have the contract do things. When we say do things, basically we're saying like it can manage money. So this contract right here has some logic inside of it that can manage money. Inside of each of these functions are some different pieces of code, and each of these pieces of code will take, some amount of work for a computer to execute, just like any code, right? We pass this code right here to our computer, it's going to be executed, and it does something. Running each line of code inside of this contract right here is not free on the blockchain. So the blockchain, like someone's computer out on a network, is going to run this code for you. When this code is executed, that is not free. So when it's not free, well, what do I mean by that? You are paying something. And in this case, what you are paying is Ethereum coins, or Ether. So when we think about Ether, we're really thinking about a currency that we use to get someone else's computer to run our code. That's probably the best definition I can give you. So when you see people buying Ethereum, they're not really quite so much buying Ethereum coins that are worth some real life currency. What they're really kind of technically buying is the ability to run some code on someone else's computer at some point in time in the future. That's kind of what you're buying. Maybe the best way to think of this would be to think of Ether coins are as best way to think of it is like maybe like batteries for a calculator. Like, we all have calculators, or, we can imagine we all have calculators, but using a calculator takes energy, it takes power. So when we want to, if the batteries used in these calculators, if they were extremely valuable, like maybe let's think of a situation here, right? Let's use our imagination. Let's imagine that we are in like a post-apocalyptic world, right? Like 300 years in the future, nukes have dropped, no technology is left. The only technology we have left are some like calculators. And each of those calculators have some batteries in them. And those are the only batteries in the world. We have no ability to create more batteries. We can't make any more. So if I came up to you and I said, hey, can you run this like quick addition problem for me? You would say, I'm not doing that for free. What are you going to give me to use up my battery power here? And I would say, okay, well, I'll give you like, I don't know, corn or something, right? That's probably the best analogy I can give you for Ethereum. We have something worth some value that we are paying to other people to run our code for us. So that's I don't know. Like I said, I'm still trying to figure out like the perfect way of explaining Ethereum and Ether coins. I think that's the best I can do right now, but at some point I will refine that definition and make it more clear. Because that just gives you like the idea. It doesn't really give you any sense of like what's really going on behind the scenes. Okay, anyways, we got to troubleshoot this area here. First, let's look at one or two comments in chat. Am I invested in crypto? Yes, I am. I think I can show you my account because I think that's always fun for people. Let me grab my phone real quick. So here's my Coinbase account. I'm not invested in any crypto stuff. Right? I don't hold any coins at present, but I have like bought and sold just a tiny little bit of Litecoins. I started off, I think I've had like some Bitcoin as well, but I sold most of the Bitcoin. I've got just like, some residual amount here at this point. I think that in total, like the funding that I have done, let's see if it's easy for me to look that up. I think like the total funding that I've done to my account has been like $5,000, I want to say, in US dollars. And then between a couple of Bitcoin transactions, I don't know, I can't really seem to find like a lifetime transaction log here. I'm really just not seeing it. Yeah, I just don't see it. But I'm pretty sure I put in like $5,000 just about of US dollars, and then through some like Bitcoin and Litecoin investment, I'm now up to 7,980 plus I guess 238. So I guess just about $8,100. So at present I'm up like 3,100 total, I think, over, I don't know. I don't recall when the first time I started doing some like, speculation on coins. Maybe around March, I guess. So I don't know, maybe like 8 months or so. I'm up $3,100. If you look at how much Bitcoin has gone up and Litecoin and Ethereum in that time, making only about like what, 60% profit, not that great, but better than nothing, right? It's so easy to look at Litecoin or all these coins and think like, oh wow, so much money and I'm gonna make all this money. But it's so challenging to actually like ride this crest up and sell it at the right time. So I don't really sweat lost gains. I just say, have I made money? Yes, great, done. That's it. That's all I care about. Most recently, I bought a bunch of coins. Yeah, around September. I think I paid around $55 for Litecoin. So that was around September 25th. Yeah, so I paid around 54 right here, and I sold around November 8th, which was around like I think 62 or so. So I only made like $7 per coin, and I think I had purchased like 130 coins. Made some money, but not a lot. Well, if I had held on to that, I would have made like $40 per coin. But again, you just can't look at it in that fashion. If you do, it's gonna be so not fun. So anyways, yeah. That is, so I'm not holding any coins right now, but might get back into it soon. Right now, coins are all going up, so it's a really bad time to buy. Deanne, like Bill said, Coinbase is what I use. It's relatively secure and easy to use. You can use a credit card to buy coins, which is nice, or you can link maybe you can't use a credit card, but you can definitely link your bank account very easily. So that is what I choose to use. Okay, back to this thing. So we're getting error around intrinsic gas is too low. So I think that I need to actually specify a gas value somewhere inside of here. Probably around right here. But I think that I want to look up some Web3 documentation again and figure out exactly that gas price should be. So let's look at Web3. We should also look at Truffle Contract as well, because that's what I'm using to actually deploy the contract. Come on. So yeah, we're using this new method on the contract. So here's new right here. So we are deploying a new version of the contract to the network, and then we're getting back an instance of my contract. However, it appears that when we are trying to actually deploy it, we are not passing along enough gas. Let's see, Blake, if you're still around, the term gas here, gas is a reference to the money that we pay to have our code executed. So you'll see the term gas floating around all over the place. Anytime you make a transaction with Ethereum, you are paying gas, because that is the amount of money you are spending to get your code executed. So maybe what I should be looking for in here is gas. So there's an optional last argument that you can use, including the transaction from address, gas limit, and gas price. So that's what we basically have to specify here. Petrol gas, not, yes, pretty much. Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, pretty much like petrol. Same thing. So we want probably something like gas limit, I'm going to assume here, and gas price. What should our gas limit be? I think that's going to be in my geth configuration file. Let's find, do we have any reference to gas in here? Gas limit. Yeah, that'll work. I really hope I don't have to go back through everything and specify the gas limit for every transaction I have. We will take a look. Oh, actually, maybe it's just for the contract. We'll see. Minimum contribution 100. There we go. Okay, so we're back to having to unlock our account. So what I'm suspecting here, this is the second time that I've gotten this error message, even though I had successfully unlocked my geth accounts. I'm getting the feeling that my geth accounts only get unlocked for a certain period of time and they automatically relock. So that's something to fix up in my geth script, I suspect. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to restart geth all the time. So if it works right now, okay, intrinsic gas too low. Again, intrinsic gas too low. We're gonna have to just search for this error because I'm specifying the gas, but apparently I'm not doing it well enough. Let's see if there's anything else about gas. Okay, gas and gas price, my contract. Okay, yeah, let's try doing that instead. Exceeds gas limit. I can deal with that. Let's try decreasing our gas. Exceeds gas limit. Let's try chopping off our gas. Yay. All right, it worked. Okay, so we're now back to successfully deploying a contract, which means we can uncomment this stuff right here. We're probably going to come back and revisit this gas stuff later on and figure out exactly why we're having to fiddle with it here, but that's something to address later on. So let's try creating a new contract again. Okay, so this isn't good. You'll notice that I'm just getting these like infinite loop of requests right here. The only thing I can imagine is that it is taking, oh, this actually might be okay. So let's look at one of these requests right here and see what's happening. So you'll notice that we just get these nonstop requests. I suspect this is the thing. Okay, that's not good. All right, so we keep on getting more and more IDs on this thing, which is likely very bad. Let's take a look at what's being sent. Get filter changes. What would be, so with Ethereum, with our node here, basically to work with our local Ethereum network, we make use of this JSON RPC protocol. When we make use of JSON RPC, we send along some body that you see right here with a method, and the method describes what we're trying to do on our local server. So in this case, we're sending a method with the name of Ethereum get filter changes. So if we wanted to, we could probably look up this method right here and get a better insight into exactly what the heck our application is trying to do right now. Okay, so it looks like we're just saying like, hey, watch and tell me when something changes here. That's what I'm reading. So pulling method for new filter, blah, blah, blah. All right, this makes me feel like our contract creation is taking a really long time to go through. Let's look at some of the more recent ones here. So we're now up to 288, 297. I feel like I need to restart my geth node and turn on more logging to see exactly what the geth node is doing. Otherwise, if this doesn't start working soon, I think we're going to have to go back to MetaMask because I'm definitely spending a little bit too much time troubleshooting this stuff right now. Okay, so let's restart this. We're going to restart our server to clear out the contract that we just created. Okay, that's better. All right, so now if we look at our geth node, here it is right here. I turned on logging, so we can now see a tremendous amount of information coming from the geth node. This is all logging that is being generated by the geth node. So now when we make our contribution right here, or when we create this new contract, we should now start to see like a lot of stuff here. Okay, so in this case, we get submitted contract creation, and then we get a contract here. I'm wondering, make sure mining is turned on. Mining is not turned on. I think that's probably the issue. So right now, whenever we submit a transaction, we have to actually like mine it out to confirm the transaction. And I think that the geth node is just not mining right now, which is why the request just stays pending for all time. So let's take a look at the geth private documentation, and we probably have to turn mining on. Yeah, so it's probably this right here. So we have to actually like kickstart the mining process. So let's go down here. Mining. Yeah, starting mining. That should work. Okay, so let's try this now. So we're going to restart our geth server. We're going to restart our React app. Okay, so that's definitely what it was. We were not actually mining. So all of the transactions that we were making to create contracts were not actually being processed at all. So you can now see that we're starting a mining operation, and in theory, we're going to start like actually processing transactions that come in. So let's again try making a new contract and see how we do now. So we'll create. Okay, so we're still getting the scroll here. There we go. So our block has been mined, which means our contract should now be like in place essentially. But it looks like something is still not quite getting a message back inside of our React app. So it looks like the actual blockchain, or like the contract, is getting picked up and committed, but it looks like it's not being communicated back to our React app. So let's look at some of our code around creating the contract itself. So here we are right here. We don't really need that anymore. So why do we just continue all this nonstop polling? I think that what I want to do right now, we're going to swap from, let's find our web3.js file right here. I think we're going to swap from using the HTTP provider to WebSockets. With WebSockets, it'll be a little bit more obvious as to what exactly is going on with all this polling, because we won't, basically when we're using HTTP, we have to poll the server to figure out what's going on. With WebSockets, that polling does not occur. The geth node can just push a message down to us as soon as we get some result put together. Now, when we go back to this method, we're gonna have to stick this on here now. Okay. All right, so what's going on here? WebSocket provider is not a constructor. So now we're seeing this error message because we're using a different version of Web3. So I really am starting to feel like we just need to fix at Web3 version 1. Let's, we're gonna give that a shot. Let's see if we have Web3 in here already. Web3? We don't have Web3. So where's Web3 coming from? Import Web3 from Web3, but we don't have Web3 listed inside of our package.json file. Maybe I just never actually saved it. It's definitely something funky going on. Let's take a look at Sure thing, Felipe. My pleasure. So here's Web3 right here. Let's look at what version of it we're working with. So 20.2. So I did add this add Web3 at some point in time. I just don't recall when I did. All right, so we're going to remove that. Huh. All right. Well, that's fun. Why are we having difficulty installing Web3 version 1? I definitely was not running into this issue previously. I think we're just going to blow away our entire node modules directory. We're going to manually add, let's see, where's our yarn lock file? We're going to blow this thing away as well. I think we're probably getting some version conflicts is what I would guess. We'll do a Web3 like so. All right. Oh, not that one. There we go. Okay. Yeah, definitely got some issues here. Couldn't find any versions for Web3 utils. Why are we running into issues? I wonder if the Web3 guys took down the latest version of Web3 or something. Ugh. Let's look at their GitHub. I'm sure someone else has posted an issue about something like this. Let's take a look. There we go. Oh, so I've not been able to install with yarn ever. Well, how about that? Okay, we're not using yarn then. So let's use npm install instead then. Let's make sure we take care of any... Okay, that looks good. Well, that's very interesting. Oh, although this person says, I can't seem to find a stable version of 1.0 that will install with yarn or npm. So we might run into an issue installing with npm right now as well. Okay, well, we'll see what happens in just a moment. All right, let's do a bit of cleanup here. Man, I think the npm install is taking forever because I'm streaming. It usually doesn't take this long. You definitely don't have that many modules. Okay. So my hope right now is to get Web3 working I'm looking at another project on my other monitor here. Let's pull this thing on. So here's the last project I was working on, and definitely had Web3 installed on this one successfully. I must have been using npm here. And yeah, we got a package lock file. We don't have a yarn lock. So I think that Web3 just has issues installing with yarn. Hopefully it's going to work out just fine with npm instead. I guess we'll find out very shortly. Come on. Well, while we're waiting for the npm install, does anyone have any Ethereum or React questions? Anyone working on any interesting projects, anything like that? Let me know. Yeah, it definitely looks like I got some connectivity issues right now, probably because of the stream. Have I ever used CSS modules in React? What's my opinion about it? Possibly use media queries. So CS modules in React, you know, I've commented before, CSS and where to place it is really just turned into a religion. People just think so strongly about one way or the other. I have worked on projects that use CSS modules in CSS and JavaScript. I did not particularly find it to be that much more convenient, interesting, fun, anything than any other solution I've worked with previously. Honestly, the first React app, and to this day, the largest one that I've ever worked with, used Sass, and that was perfect. There was nothing wrong with it. Every single component that we created had a class name that matched the component's name on the root level component, or excuse me, on the root level element within that component. So on the Sass side, we would essentially create one Sass file for every component that was created, and then we would namespace each of them by using a class name. I never ran into any issues with that approach whatsoever. Like, it was a very large React app. It's no longer live. It was a failed startup. The product's not, live anymore, so it's tough to give you a sense of how large it was, but it was a pretty darn large product. There's a lot of styling on it, and I just never ran into big issues. So as far as CSS and JS, my opinion there is that it starts to kind of like muddy up the logic, like the JavaScript logic. Like a lot of components that we write on a daily basis, I'm talking about everyone, developers in general, have a lot of logic or a decent amount inside of them. And so I think the instant that you start to also add in some amount of code for the CSS, it starts to get a lot more challenging to read. So my personal belief is I just have always used CSS. I like it a lot. I don't see great reason to change. I can see where it has its limitations on very, very large projects like Facebook size, but I think that Felipe, I was using it on a large app. We had probably, I don't recall off the top of my head. I don't have access to the Git repo anymore, but maybe like 200 components. That's relatively large. It's not as large as have Facebook or a very large corporation, but in the grand scheme of things, that was relatively large. And I did not run into big issues with it. All right, let's see how we're doing now that we've got hopefully the correct version of Web3 installed. It looks like our development server is still starting up. That's why. That is what we are waiting for. While that's going, I also want to look up some Geth documentation. I want to see exactly why our accounts are being automatically locked back up after some amount of time. And we'll see if I can disable that, because I really just want to have all my accounts always unlocked. Come on. I think running Geth and Open Broadcaster at the same time is just like melting my computer right now. Well, we didn't have a Sass file for every single component. Like, not every component required styling. You know, we had definitely, I'm not sure I could even give a good percentage, but you know, if you're doing things right, you're reusing a tremendous number of components or reusable components all over the place. And so a component might be an assembly of other components that are styled. Only the most like reusable components would end up with styling. A lot of the larger ones that were kind of like collections of other components didn't require any special styling most of the time. Or if it did, we would rely upon some global classes for doing like layout stuff, like Flexbox. We had a bunch of helper classes that you could easily just apply at the component level. I apologize if I did make it sound like we had 200 Sass files. We did not have 200 Sass files. We had a hefty number. I do not recall the number. The last time I worked on that up like 2 years ago was the last time I worked on it. So I just don't remember specifics about it right now. Okay, so we're looking for some documentation on Geth to make sure that we can unlock our accounts for longer amounts of time. At the same time, it looks like the server has started back up here. So let's try creating a contract again. So we get an invalid address again. Web3. Let's look at our version first. So what's our version? Okay, so we're running version 1 now. So yeah, this is so much fun. I've been using Web3 version 0.2 all this time. With 0.2, you call web3.f.accounts, so that returns you a list of all the accounts you have access to. Now, we call web3.f.accounts, and that returns like a accounts object, and we have to use this to get access to all of our accounts. So, not the most fun thing in the world, and I think we're gonna have to go look at some of the Web3 version 1.0 documentation, because I don't recall all the differences between the two versions. So Web3 has been like being built up here for, I don't know, I think since March is when version 1 started to come out. What's with the documentation? This doesn't look quite right. Web3. Let's look at Geth in the meantime. So I want to unlock. So comma separated list of accounts to unlock. That's great. Nothing else in here. Okay. Maybe we need to do a search. Mining accounts, managing accounts. Yeah, let's look at managing accounts. Meanwhile, we'll look at our Web3 documentation if this ever loads up. You know, while we're looking all this stuff up, I'm gonna kill the Geth node because this thing is just hogging all the resources on my machine right now. Actually, we'll just leave it off for a little bit while we do this research. Yeah, see how fast things are going now? I should have killed the Geth while I was doing the install, because this is definitely what was causing the issue. Okay, so web3.f.accounts, you can see I've been here before, I guarantee you that. So now to get a list of all of our accounts, we have to call get accounts. This returns a promise, and then that will resolve with all the accounts that we have access to, controlled by the node. So I think that we're just gonna have to go ahead and do that refactor here. So anywhere that I had web3.f.accounts, we're gonna be replacing that. Oh, this is gonna get so ugly, because now we've got to do stuff like web3.f. Was it accounts.getAccounts or just getAccounts? Web3.f.getAccounts. Get accounts like so. I think we can probably do some clever destructuring like so. And rather than account, we'll just do address. like so. All right, let's give this a shot. I would love for this to just work because Web3 stuff has been kind of a headache lately. Oh, that's right. I am no longer running the node. So let's start Geth back up. Okay, so Geth is now running. Here's our app. Looks good. Set up our new contract. Create. How are we going to do this time? Okay, so again, it's just kind of like hanging here. So we submitted contract creation. We're probably still mining this thing out. This is actually really good because it's giving us a better sense of how our product would work in the real world. See how it takes some amount of time to actually mine the next block and create that contract. Let's see if we can look at our WebSocket. Yeah, this one right here. So this WebSocket is connected to our local Geth node. And we should be able to see, yeah, there we go. All right. So at some point in time, these are all the messages that were exchanged over the WebSocket with the Geth node. And at some point in time, he eventually said, okay, like things got resolved. I think this uninstall filter right here, what I suspect this is, I think that the filter stuff is saying like, I'm looking for some change to this like transaction. I think at some point in time, we got the transaction receipt. Don't know what the get code is right here. And then the uninstall filter means I don't care about any of these events. Stop notifying me about them at this point. So that looks good. So we're back to like getting to our contract. All right. So we're probably gonna have to do a little bit more refactoring here. I've got a lot of this application written using Web3.js 1.0, and I think we're, or excuse me, 0.2, and I think that now we're gonna have to do a lot of refactoring to get it to work with version 1. So we're gonna do that in a second. While that cooks up, I'm gonna kill the Geth node, or while we do this refactor, we're gonna kill the Geth node so it doesn't lag up my system. I think we're good inside of that file. We're good here, good here. So what's the first thing we need to think about? We need to think about the contracts list, where we attempt to fetch our list of contracts. So component amount, get our contract, set state, contracts list. Yes, okay, so that thing's fine. I want a contract show. Here's our provider. Attempting to do that. Let's look at what the error was. I think it was the error was something about from way. Yeah, this right here. So Web3 from way is doing a like conversion of units here. I believe in version 1.0 that's nested underneath this like utils object. Yeah, web3.utils.fromWay. FromWay to way. So let's look at utils. From way. Okay. Yeah, so it should be this web3.utils.fromWay. Let's confirm that really quickly. Web3.utils.fromWay. Yeah, okay, so we're good. Let's see if we have any other. We got some other locations where we're using this helper. Let's fix those up right now. Web3 utils. I think we also have somewhere inside of here. I want to say like the request new, I think also has one of these conversions. So let's look at request new. Yep. Utils. Okay, I think that should probably be it. So let's kick our node back up and we'll try the application again. All right, so we got our local Geth node started back up. Hopefully we got some code fixes in here for some version 1.0 of WebJS, Web3.js. Okay. All right, so here's our contract details. Again, we've got our owner address, number of contributors, amount pledged, and then our list of requests, which is currently empty. So let's create a request here. Hopefully this is going to work out. So let's try new description here by some thing, whatever, doesn't matter. And then I'm going to attempt to send this to one of my other accounts that I have on my local Geth node. And I'm going to request 1 Ether. So let's try this out. Okay, so we got an error here, so we do have to do a little bit of troubleshooting. Invalid address again. So this is going to be the same issue that we ran into just a moment ago. So this is going to be request new. You have to copy paste some code from contracts new. So we're going to do our grabbing of the account. We're going to call this one from address. From address like so. Okay, that looks good. I think I can probably take a big guess here and assume that the request stuff is going to lead to an error eventually as well. Request list, specifically approval and disapproval. Yeah, so right here, exactly this. So I want to find request new. We're going to take this line again. We're going to get access to our account. Yes, okay, so we're going to get access to our account from address. We'll put this in here from address, and then here as well from address. So approval and finalize. Okay, that looks good. I think there's still a little bit more refactoring I have to do to remove some callbacks that, yeah, like this, exactly this right here. We'll come back to this because I'm not, well, yeah, let's just take care of it right now. So we're going to say await this, and then after we do that, we want to navigate back over like so. All right, let's give this a shot. Geth again. Does it cost anything to run the test net? No, it does not. So with the test net, you can freely request coins, and they're worth nothing. You basically just get granted coins, then you can use them to do whatever you want. Let me take care of something really quick here. Let's see, request list, that's what I want. And async like so. Okay. It is worth noting that right now I am on a test network, but I'm on a local network. So on the local network, I don't have to do, there is no like requesting of coins. On the local network, I can adjust how hard it is to produce new coins. And so I've set that to be arbitrarily low. So right now it's really easy for me to just like generate a ton of coins very easily. It's not, it happens very quickly. It's not it's not difficult. Okay, so create request. Let's make sure we actually took care of this thing. Request new, on submit. Yeah, I think we're good here. So let's, coffee, I think I already did coffee. Let's do, I don't know, buy a desk. I need my recipient address. So I got to pull that open from Geth again. Value as Ether. I'm going to request 1 coin. Ugh, not again. Cannot set property method of undefined. Oh, I know I've seen this one before. This is the type of error that you just see endlessly with some of this stuff. I know I've seen this one in particular. What was it? Cannot set property method of undefined. Let's look at the code that threw it. And we're going to kill Geth again because gee whiz, does that slow things down. Give me some space. Ugh, I think we're just going to have to use a debugger here to figure out what the heck's going on. Like I said, I swear I've seen this error message before, but we'll figure out what's happening. Okay, Geth node back up. We're good. So let's refresh over here. I really gotta see if it's possible to throttle a Geth server so it doesn't consume all of my CPU. So here's what's happening right now. So I've got Open Broadcaster, which is what I use to stream, that is just using a lot of processing power, and I've got Geth at a relatively low 14% right now, but that's not really accurate. Geth is actually using more than that. This thing is just like locked up right now. Yeah, Geth is using a lot of processing power right now. I got to figure out some way to throttle it, or alternatively figure out some way to make Open Broadcaster not use so much space. Okay, or processing power. Okay, so here's our recipient and create this thing. All right, so what's going wrong here? I'm gonna do a little bit of debugging, and while we do this, I'm gonna kill Geth so stuff runs fast again. So we can see now things start to level out a little bit. OBS is still using a whole bunch. Yeah, I gotta throttle one or the other somehow. Async to generator. Yeah, I don't care about that. Oh gosh, it gets wrapped in a try-catch. So we probably are not going to be able to very easily. Okay, so this dot response callbacks. What is this anyways? The WebSocket provider. Why is this thing having issue? Let's look at the error message again. I think we're just gonna have to do some GitHub research here to figure out what's going wrong. Yeah, so this right here, this is not a function. Let's you know what? Let's refactor this create request back to using the callback. I think that this error only started once I made that change, so let's first try getting rid of that. Okay, back here, I need my address again. There we go. Connection not open on send. That's okay. I think that I just refreshed the app before the get server had actually started up. So we'll just refresh and try again. Okay, buy more coffee. Whatever. 2. Okay, so that's really just so very not fun. So some of these methods seem just like completely fine returning a promise and being happy with it. Others expect to see a callback. I am having a really tough time finding rhyme or reason as to when it's one or the other. Here's a great example. So these are both methods on the contract. This is something that we ran into just before lunch. So this is a method on the contract. We call it create request. It clearly requires a callback here. Here is another location where I'm calling a method on a contract. And in this place, I'm using a promise and everything is just like totally fine. So that is a little frustrating to not really understand why it's one way or the other, but I think we're just gonna have to deal with it for right now. Okay, let's try creating a request. Excuse me, we just created a request. We need to now refresh and make sure that the request actually was successfully created. And you know what, actually I don't think we can. I think that we have to wait for that transaction to be mined right here, which might take another. Okay, so at the 43:03:40, so hopefully by now it should be showing up. Let's try refreshing again. All right. I think that we're gonna have to create another request and watch the request log to see what's actually happening behind the scenes here again. Here's my ID. Buy glue. I'm getting desperate at this point. I'll buy glue, I don't care. So let's see, WebSocket. No, that's not the WebSocket I care about. This is one I care about. Okay, so contracts new, contracts new. Let's see, why are we calling contracts new on the back end? Let's think about that for a second. Request list. Request new Axios. Okay, yeah, that's why. Okay, so that's fine that we're calling contracts new. That is to be expected. We want that. What is mysterious is, here's the WebSocket communicating with Geth right here. And I can see some requests that I expect. Okay, here we go right here. Send transaction. This is the one that I think I'm really looking for. So we want to send transaction from blah, blah, blah to contract address, presumably right here. Yeah, it's D77. Here's D77. Owner address is BCB77, and that's from BCB77. So presumably this data value right here contains the actual request that I was attempting to create. So that feels like it's going pretty well, but it feels like I'm not really getting a response back that says like, oh yeah, that request has actually been created here. So let's see what's going on. What I kind of feel like doing right now is lowering the mining difficulty on Geth so that we can get these requests to resolve a lot faster. I think that's what we have to do until I am actually sure that things really work. Although block reach canonical chain, that might be the issue here. Let's block reach canonical chain. So I think there's just a big delay on Geth for actually like mining a block. I think that's what we're really running into right now. Okay, yeah, so I think that we need to do a little bit of configuration on Geth here. Let's see, server, Geth, and we want to update the difficulty to something way more reasonable. Let's take a look at the documentation for Geth private, just to make sure that's a reasonable value. Okay, yeah, I think we're okay. So I made a change to like the base, like the what's called the Genesis block of my blockchain that I'm using for local test purposes. With that change, I'm gonna delete the entire chain, and we're basically gonna start over again from scratch here. So I'm gonna kill that directory. That deletes my server, or see my blockchain, and then we're going to start npm run geth back up, and that should like create my accounts and all that kind of good stuff here. All right. So we unlock our accounts. There are our accounts right here. So this FC is the one that I really care about. Okay, so let's flip back over to our application, and we're going to test this out again. Okay, so now back over here, we have no open campaigns because basically nothing has happened whatsoever. So open campaigns, so I just wiped out the entire chain. So we're going to create a new chain, or excuse me, a new campaign. Now, things should be rolling along faster this time. So if they're not rolling along significantly faster, let's see, we mined up to 10 and then we stopped mining. Oh, I think that's the issue. Okay, so let's we're gonna kill the chain and start it back up. So the interesting thing about this package that I'm using for managing mining is that it automatically starts mining and then stops after a certain number of coins have been earned, and that's what we just saw. Like, long story short, basically work stopped being done too soon. So let's refresh this and try again. Here we go. Minimum contribution, create. Okay, so this should now be creating our new, yeah, there we go. So this is way faster, the easier difficulty on mining. So now we're going to do coffee again, not that. Let's get our secondary account, there we go. Okay, so now we should have created the new request. That should be this right here. Data to I'm going to assume it is. I'm actually not 100% certain about that. Let's look at our blockchain. So block reach canonical chain. It looks like we're like 13 blocks behind here. So I think that we probably have to wait until like block 19 actually gets committed to canonical chain. 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. All right, let's give this a shot now. So flip back over. So now ideally we should see the request appear here. Still don't see the request. What could possibly be going wrong with request creation? Shoot. What could be going wrong with request creation? Here's create request. It definitely navigates us back over. I feel like I want to log out some of the things that are being used to actually request the list of, get the list of requests. So here's request account. Let's console log this thing. Console log. All right, let's do toString. Make that actually usable. While this is going, I'm going to look at Truffle again. I want to see if they fixed the issues with Truffle develop, that local geth instance. Okay, so without a doubt, the issue here is that there appears to be no requests that are getting like committed over to our contract. That is without a doubt what the issue here is. So we're gonna have to do a pretty deep dive to figure out exactly what's going on there. So that'll be a lot of fun. And I use fun in quotes, I think, because it might not be fun at all, as a matter of fact. I don't really see a lot here. Let's look at issues and see if there's been any mention of WebSockets. June 19th, way too old. Let's see if there's any open pull requests around. Test RPC. Mocha. Let's go back over to issues and see if there's any mention of options. And let's try searching for geth. So what I'm doing right now is I'm using a local instance of geth that I set up on my own. Truffle is like a Ethereum development platform that is supposed to make life a lot easier, but right now some aspects of it are not developed all the way out, and that's why I'm using a local instance of geth, which is to host my own local Ethereum node. I would really like to use Truffle, but again, it's kind of missing some core features here, and I'm just not seeing anything that really makes me feel like those are being resolved. All right, I think we can probably just forget that for now. That's a little bit of a side diversion. So again, the issue here is that I'm creating a request here, but it does not actually appear to be getting added to the contract in any way, shape, or form. Let's try refreshing one more time, see if it just took time for the request to actually show up here. The other thing that's kind of, I don't know, a little bit of a concern is that I don't see any like failure logged inside of here either. Where are those longer lines right here? So this is where I actually submitted the transaction. And I don't really see anything that says like, oh yeah, that actually didn't quite work out the way we expected. So without a doubt, it still came back to 0. All right, well, we're gonna have to do a bit of, oh, Looks like the console might be just locked up. So let's just let this sit for a moment. I kind of feel like I'm gonna have to end up restarting Chrome here. Let's first try opening a new tab. All right, open campaigns. Definitely 0 requests. All right, without doubt, we have a big regression on creation of requests. So I had this request creation working just fine this morning, but again, trying to update to WebJS 1.0, and it's just causing a tremendous number of issues. Probably should have made a progress commit so that I could revert it easily, but I never learn. Never learn my lesson in that regard. Okay, so what do we really want to do here? What are we going to do? We need to figure out why we can call create request right here, but never actually seeing anything appear on our blockchain. Why would that be? Why would that be? I wonder if we can get our Solidity browser hooked up to our local instance of Geth as well. That would really, really help out. Although I kind of suspect that we might not be able to. We'll give it a shot. All right, well, this is going, so request count. So it's definitely never ever showing up. But if we look at our request new over here, create request from address, this.process.history.push. So this callback right here is being executed, which means that the create request is actually being issued, and we're getting a receipt back that says like, yeah, okay, we understand, we'll give that thing a shot. But then this just never actually shows up inside of the request log. You know what, this might be another one of those gas issues where the gas is just not being set up correctly. I've got a hunch that might be what it is. So we're going to manually set up some gas values here, just like we did when we attempted to create a contract. So go back over request new. Let's put our gas amount in here. This is going to be irritating if this is the issue. So we'll let this reload kick in. So here's our I don't even want to run the contract over here per se. Let's see if we can. Web3 provider. Okay. Okay, so this is pretty sweet. This is actually going to make life really easy. So let's see. We need to. What's the network address of this thing that we're running on? Geth. Localhost 8545. That's it right there. Not possible to connect to the Web3 provider. IPC or RPC. Huh. RPlay. You know, I had previously set up, or I do have my personal account, but I kind of want to get a little bit more recognition on this account as well, because I've got some number of YouTube videos over here. And I don't know, that's a good question. I don't really have a great reason. I kind of want to continue on this account and get it a little bit more recognition than it has right now. But I totally understand what you mean when you say more people will recognize me if I do from my personal account. RPC 8545, RPC cores 8545. Let's triple check that. So we're going to do a Web3 provider, localhost 8545. Yeah, that's it. Web3 provider endpoint. Maybe it's because, oh, I think I know what's going on here. Yeah, okay, I think I know what's going on. We don't want an injected provider. I want a Web3 provider. No. JavaScript VM, yes, that's what we want. So, oh, I know this won't even run against our local node. Okay, we're gonna forget Solidity for right now. Solidity browser. Let's try this out with these gas prices instead and see how we do. All right, do we still have the address? No. I need my address. Lost it, too high up. That's okay. So here's all of our accounts we have running on the local node. Book. All right, so now we get an error. Big number, big number, not a number. What could be going wrong here? Does it expect this to be a number or a big number? Non-number FCBB. FCBB, okay, so that's the place I'm trying to send this thing to. Recipient. Not, why would that need to be a number? It shouldn't be a number. Oh, I know what's going on here. Yeah, this I copied the key right here. That's not the full key. So we need to try it again. If anyone has any questions as I'm going through this stuff, let me know, because otherwise I'm just trying to bang through it as quickly as possible. And I know when I just kind of go through it as fast as I possibly can, it's really not clear exactly what's happening a lot of the time. Okay, so that feels better. So let's see what's happening over on Geth. If this doesn't work, I think I'm going to just quit Geth for now and maybe give it another shot later on in the future. Okay, so I don't see any transaction here that makes it feel like that actually hit the Geth chain at all. Let's try refresh. Okay, I think we're going to roll back on Geth here. It is just not at all working out. This is the second time I've tried to use Geth directly rather than Truffle develop, and both times it really has not worked out the way I had hoped. So at this point I think I'm just kind of wasting time, so we're going to go back to using Truffle develop, and oops, we need to change into our ether. Resources for learning about Ethereum. I basically just, I think I got 1 or 2 books. I got like I think I got 1 ebook, and I took a look at the first few pages. The book was already out of date by the time I got it. Let's see if, I don't know that I still have the book. Here we go. So this is what I first took a glance at. So introducing Ethereum and Solidity. The problem is that a lot of the book is just like, so much of material around Ethereum right now is just about like really, I don't know, like floofy stuff that's not really concrete. It's not super, it's just like a bunch of esoteric stuff that's not super useful. And then even like I could almost guarantee you don't use a book, because every book is pretty much already out of date. This stuff moves so fast. So, I at least got an idea of what was going on through the book right here. And then after that, I just started diving in, writing code as fast as I possibly could. And along the way, I've basically picked up a lot of what was going on. I know that might not be tremendously helpful, but that is essentially what I've been up to up till this point. That's just the way it goes. So let's see, back on topic here really quickly. I'm no longer going to use the newer version of Truffle, of Web3. So I'm just going to dump this stuff. Let's get a version. Let's see. Inside my client directory, I want to see npm show Web3. We're going to roll back to a reasonable version of this thing, which is like version 0.21. There we go. That's what I want right there. So we're going to grab this like so, and I'm just going to kill my entire node modules directory. I don't think we need get private anymore, because we are definitely not using that. Boy, did I bring up? Yeah, I got the right thing. Get private, that can go. We're going to clean up some scripts here that we're not going to use anymore. That can all go back over in package JSON. I don't want any of this get stuff anymore. I'll take that out. And then back inside the Web3 file, this is going to go back to being an HTTP provider. And I'm going to default to, oops, A545. Looks good. Okay, so we now need MetaMask again, unfortunately. All this like aside here that I've been, yes, let's take a break and see what's going on in the next lecture. I love that. I love that. It's infectious. I can't stop now. It started at some point. I didn't always say that, but it started at some point, and now it just keeps going, and I can't stop it even if I wanted to. I don't know. I don't know. All right, we do have to do a little bit of fixes here. So some of this address stuff, we don't have to worry about the gas prices anymore. That's going to be taken care of for us. From address will be web3eth accounts at 0. Next, we need to replace a bunch of these utils things. So like so. That's that. Utils. Like that. Utils. Let's do a global. Not the README. Contract show. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, that's good. The last thing we have to do is, let's see, do we do our npm install? Let's make sure we do that. Let's see, we don't need this get accounts anymore. web3eth.accounts at 0. So that's my like local account that is unlocked. Let's make sure we don't have any other get accounts around. Yep, we got 2 of them. So we can do from web3.eth.get, no, just accounts at 0. And down here, we'll do that as well. Oops. All right, that's looking good. So it looks like I got a typo inside my package.json file. We'll take care of that very quickly. We can start the npm install back up. That's good. Okay, so I think that we're basically back to where I was before. The last thing we have to do is install MetaMask, which I was using before to interface with my local Ethereum node, but MetaMask was giving me so much trouble that I decided to take it out. But at this point, not using MetaMask is causing me just as much trouble, so we're going to go back to using MetaMask, for better or for worse. Can't live with it, can't live without it. It's definitely one of those circumstances. All right, so we're going to add to Chrome. This is going to be like the 5th time today that I've added the MetaMask extension. That's been happening quite a bit. We're going to make sure that we unlock our MetaMask account with the mnemonic. I don't want to see their marketing page. Go away. Let's save this over here. Come on, MetaMask. Come on, MetaMask. I just cannot get this thing to run. Let's try from a different tab. Nope, all the same. So it looks like MetaMask is having some issues right now. I'm wondering if I'm going to have to end up restarting Chrome for real this time. Yeah, I think we're just going to restart Chrome. The heck with it. Still having issues with MetaMask. Cannot get this thing to pop up. We'll give it another shot in just a second once we get our local app back up here. So still having some issues here with npm install. It's just taking mysteriously long for no good reason, probably because I'm running the stream. But that's okay, we'll keep the stream going. But we probably are going to have to wait a little bit for this thing to finish up. Ah, very good. All right, that's not bad. So we'll npm run start and get to it. Difference between component will mount and did mount. Will mount is called right before the component is actually rendered to the screen. Component did mount is called immediately after. Now, one thing to really keep in mind is that component will mount is almost unnecessary. And if anything, it's kept around for like legacy purposes. Component will mount, the reason for that is that component will mount is called immediately after the component's constructor function. So technically, any logic that you want to place inside of component will mount could just as easily be placed inside of the constructor as well. Same thing. You could do it without any issue. In general, I still use component will mount all over the place. If anything, I would call it kind of a bad habit that I do that. It would probably be better if I did not use component will mount and only use did mount instead. Okay, so we're back up here. Let's see if we can get MetaMask actually opening. Yay! There we go. So MetaMask back open. Okay, we're going to import our account. This is the default account that gets generated by Truffle automatically. Oh. Lost my doc down below. We're going to fix that real quick. There we go. All right, so we got MetaMask running again. Hopefully the app is going to work a-okay. We'll do our new, create a new contract. Invalid address. Oh my goodness, not again. So we ran into this thing previously. Let's figure out what's going on here. A lot of this Ethereum stuff, it feels like just running in circles, but I don't know how much of that is really like, a lot of times it feels like it's going in circles because I am doing stuff like I'm trying to get too fancy and like sidestep some stuff. That's what it usually feels like. So nonetheless, it can be really frustrating sometimes. All right, so invalid address. I know I've seen this error message more than once. Usually it comes from right here. It's probably because I logged into MetaMask after loading the page. If I had to take a wild guess, I would really suspect that's that. So let's try refreshing, and then we're going to try to create the contract again. Okay, so let's try again, 100. Oh, no. I remember what's going on here. It's because I just added my account to MetaMask, but I'm still trying to execute all the stuff on the main network. I need to hook up to my local network instead. That was the important part that I neglected to do. Okay, so now we are on the private network where I have 100 test Ethereum assigned to me. So now we're going to refresh. So now when we try to create the contract, we should see MetaMask try to confirm it. We'll submit. We're good to go. Now it looks like we're probably not going to get the redirect automatically over to our contracts page just because of some differences between the way that MetaMask 0.2 works and the way that 0.1 works. So specifically, it's probably this right here. We're probably gonna have to not do that. No. Can we get away with this? Deployed. Let's try this out again. Oh, I know what once. Oh, gee whiz. Oh, I hope that's not the case. I know what's going on. Yeah, oh, gee whiz, this is so unfortunate. Okay, so basically what's happening right now, you'll notice that I am like approving these contracts, you know, contract published. The like stuff is happening appropriately. This is a bug in Truffle Contract right here. Oh my goodness, not fun at all. So the bug is that when you create a new contract with Truffle never actually resolves the promise that comes back. And I had this, the workaround was that I grabbed someone's fork that fixed this issue, but I just reset all my node modules and downloaded everything again. And so I lost that fork clone when I did so. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to go back in and refork Truffle contracts, that is. So let's find Truffle Contract. Here we go. Actually, we don't even need to be in it over here. We really want to get at it from the command line. Okay, so here's all this stuff. You know what, actually, I'm going to delete, we'll do, okay, so that's good. So now we need to go find that gentleman's fork that fixed the issue with these promises actually being resolved. See, here it is right here. Opened on October 23rd. Whenever you create a new contract, the promise is never being resolved. Oh my goodness, it's so unfortunate. Like, this is a core method of the library. If anyone wants to get like an easy open source contribution, you could basically just take this guy's fork right here and just submit it as a PR to Truffle Contract to get this thing fixed, because this is really unfortunate right now. So we're going to clone this guy's fork directly into our node modules directory. This is essentially our workaround for right now. So now we've got his fixed version of Truffle Contract. So now that we have that fixed version, we got to restart our React client and make sure that everything gets bundled up with that new version. So now we're going to wait for localhost 3000. Okay, so now momentarily when we attempt to deploy our contract again, this should be getting resolved, and then we should essentially like move on through the flow. All right, so MetaMask. Yes, this looks good. We're on the private network. So this is going to create the contract. So now the promise gets resolved because we're using that gentleman's fork. Thank goodness. So we're back to this thing. Let's just verify that creating a request still works to make sure I'm not going super crazy here, even though I did this many times this morning. This time we're going to request some soap. Why not? We get our MetaMask notification. We'll submit. This kicks us back over and we get our request popping up. Excellent. Now we should be able to approve this. That's going to pop MetaMask again. Approval count goes up by 1. And then if we finalize, let's finalize here. And we are running to the same issue. Oh, it's because we don't have enough money inside the account. We need to donate some actual account or money to the campaign. Let's reject all. We'll contribute. Oh, no, I just double clicked it. Oh, you know that's going to be bad. Okay, so this is going to donate money to the campaign. So now we've got, in theory, 3 ethers. Let's triple check that really quickly. So there's our 3 ethers, and finally we will finalize. And that should mark this contract as being complete. Yes, so we are now complete. We are less 1 ether, and if we try to get the balance of this account right here, which I think we can do with web3eth get balance for this account. And we'll console log v.toString. Okay, so now we have 101 Ether because we just approved 1 Ether to be sent to that account. Okay, so what's the lesson here? The lesson here is stick to the stuff that you know that works and don't try to get too clever. Basically, I just wasted like about 2.5 hours. Excuse me. Yeah, no, about 2 hours, I think. 2 hours trying to refactor away from using Truffle Develop over to using Geth locally. And Geth was just not behaving the way we expected at all. So I had to revert everything back over and use Truffle's version of Geth instead. The reason it took so long was because we've converted up to using WebJS 1.0, which has a different API, and now we just reverted back to using WebJS 0.2. So everything's back to working like it was before. Now at this point, I think that I've kind of taken this app through to completion, except for styling. Like obviously styling needs to get a lot of work done here. I think that we also need a little bit of work to be done with making sure that live updates actually kick in. So like when we click a button, make sure that something actually updates on the screen. I think that the next thing that I want to do, I don't really want to do any styling right now. And I don't want to worry about that updating stuff right now too much. I think that right now my bigger focus is on seeing what this app would look like if I did a server templating, like traditional HTML templating for this same application. So in other words, build the same exact thing all over again, but don't use React. Instead, use a classic like Express rendered application. And so I think that's what we're going to start doing right now. So let's do a little bit of cleanup here. And I think that we're going to, I'm going to take this code editor, I'm going to drag it onto a separate screen because I'm going to reference back to this stuff a tremendous amount and do a lot of copy paste of code, hopefully. And then I think we'll close that tab out and we're going to start up a new project that will be used to make the HTML templating version of this thing. So let's do a little bit of terminal cleanup here. We're going to call this one make dir kickstart HTML. Why not? Okay. So we want to save Express. Oh, and you know what? The other thing that we have to worry about here is WebJS is all set up for using. Oh wait, no. Yeah, okay, we'll figure that part out. Never mind. Got ahead of myself. So we're going to do np install save Express. What else do we have to do here? What else? We need body parser without parser. What else do we need? I don't know how much else. We need a templating library. Without a doubt, we need some templating stuff going on. I have not done templating in a while with Express. So let's take a look at the Pug documentation and see how Pug is doing these days. I almost just feel like doing ES6 templates, to be honest. Like template strings. Conversation, where'd that come from? Pug, that's what I wanted. Okay, so we could do Pug. I really don't know that we need all the features of Pug. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I think we probably do. No, the problem with Pug is I really don't like the name, believe it or not. If that's at all meaningful. I really enjoyed the previous name of Pug, which was Jade. I thought that was a great name, but we'll use Pug anyways. All right. Let's do this. We're definitely gonna need some Pug documentation because there's no way I'm gonna remember how to do all this stuff off the top of my head. I can't really think of anything else we need from the get-go right now, so we'll give this a shot. Express integration, that's what I care about. Yeah, guide, that's what we want. All right, so we've got Pug already. We got to set our views directory, and I think we just have to call render and then pass in an object of what form fields we want to add in there, and that's pretty much it. So that should be pretty straightforward. I think we can just go ahead and give this thing a shot. I don't think we need to worry about it too much. The real question is whether or not we're going to use jQuery here. That's the real question. Let's see. What do we want inside of here? I want this. I want listening on port 3000. That'll work for now. And we'll get localhost 3000. Oh, got to start it up. Okay. That is not bad. I can take that. So we'll do an app.get. Let's do a, let's see, what was that? App.use or app.views. Which was it? Where's that guide? Yeah, that's right here. Got to set that views directory. To render template files, set the following properties in the app.js file. Even index.js file, doesn't really matter. This defaults to the views directory in the application root directory. Yes, we want to do set views, and we want to set view engine as pug, which I assume is going to do some configuration of how the thing works. Okay, so now we need a view engine, or excuse me, a views directory. How do these pug files get... I don't want a test drive pug. I want the documentation. Here we go. So yeah, we need a pug file. Gee whiz. I do not care for... I like Jade a lot more than pug. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. That's my preference. So we'll do a... let's do a layout.pug. Ugh. Disgusting. I don't know how we do... Let's do like a head tag, body tag, h3. How do we do content with this thing? Let's do, just show me an example. That's all I really need here. I don't want the getting started guide. Take me back home. Oh, okay. That's all we got. Okay. How about that? Oh, let's look at the example real quick. Yeah, let's take this. This is good enough. There we go. H1 is going to have hi there. That'll work. So I think this is going to look something like rec res dot render and the view name. Layout. I think that we should probably do something like index instead. Yeah, index pug. We should probably. I'm sure it has support for layouts, but we'll figure that out in just a second. Localhost 3000, see how we're doing over here. Hi there, yay, okay. That's good enough right now. So, I think we need a collection of different templates here. We definitely need a layout file. So we need to figure out how layouts work really quickly. Template inheritance. Yes, that's what we want, probably. Yeah, layout pug, that's it. Block scripts, don't really want block scripts. Block content. Block content is probably what we want. So we'll do a body block content block header, I guess is how we're going to do this. Block foot. A block that a template may replace. The template is cursive, and then we use the extends keyword. Okay, so we'll do a index dot pug file. We're going to extends layout, and we have to add the extension. Yes, we do. Extends pug. We'll do an h1 for testing purposes, and the content of this thing is going to be hi there. And inside the layout file, do we have to do anything inside the layout specific? Nope. Okay. So we don't have, we're going to do just that right now. Where does content come from exactly? Block content. I see. Okay. Block content. Yeah, this makes sense. I can go for that. So let's give this a shot now. And we got an error. So something definitely went wrong. Oh, maybe it didn't actually. We want to do res.render index. Let's try this. No such file. What could we not find? Layout ugh. Okay, so in the index file, yeah, there we go. Pug. Oop. Okay, so hi there, that works. Everyone's happy. Fantastic. What else do we have to do here? So the first thing I can tell that I really need is a syntax highlighting. Oh, thank you, rplay. I gotta look at chat more often. So we definitely want to have language pug in here so that we can get some syntax highlighting. Come on. Oh, oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so there's our syntax highlighting, very good. All right, now we need to start to think about like what this site is really gonna have. So we've got the index file. Really, index is supposed to be like the home page. What else do we need to start thinking about? So I want like the home page. We're gonna have to just make like a quick document here that lists this stuff out. So I need a contracts. Let's see. Let's just do contracts index show. Then we need nested on that. We need requests show requests new. And we need contracts new as well. And then I think that requests, we might do an index for requests and just not show them all directly on the contracts page. I think that probably makes the most sense. I think that's, oh, I don't want to save this. I think this is probably what we're going to end up doing. So I think we'll make a directory for contracts. Oh yes, Casey, still going strong. I got a ways yet. It's only 4 o'clock for me, so. Sometimes this week in particular, I am taking off Friday, and I might take off half of Thursday as well. So I gotta like make that time back at some point. So this will be new pug. We need index pug. And contracts show pug. Then for our requests, we want index show and new. Okay, so that is a start. Now let's make sure that we can like link these things together in some meaningful fashion. So first off, I don't think there's going to be like a root index file. I think that that's really going to be the same thing as contracts index. So when someone goes to the root route right here, we're going to send them to contracts index like so. I shouldn't have deleted that thing quite so soon. Extends layout.pug. Block, what was the name of that root block? Block content. Block content, and this is going to have an h1 of, let's see, contracts. Hi, just I am contracts index, like so. All right, And then we're going to contracts index. Yeah, that looks good. All right, let's save this thing, see how we're doing. All right, we got an issue here, probably related to the fact that we're nesting these layouts. So contracts layout.pug, what? Contracts, oh, we need to go like, tell this thing to go up one directory somehow. Gee whiz, I don't know how you do that. Probably like so, I assume. Let's give this a shot. Okay, that definitely works. Okay, so we have the contracts index, so that's good enough. I now need to start figuring out how to get like content to show up on the screen in some fashion. To do so, we're gonna have to write some amount of JavaScript code. The real fast question that's gonna come up here is, where exactly does that JavaScript code get located at? So we need to decide, like, I think that I want to, what's the best way to do this? I feel like we need to classify two types of operations here. Like, we've got some operations in this application that are based on like getting information from the blockchain, and then we have some where we want to modify the blockchain. I think that operations that get information, I think we'll kind of execute those on the server, and anything that needs to modify the blockchain will be code that's located on the client. And we will essentially just delegate figuring out how the client is going to handle, how we're going to figure out like to get some JavaScript executing on the client side. The big issue here, like the big issue is that I want to use libraries like Web.js, or excuse me, Web3 and Truffle Contract. I want to use those on the client side, but those are modules built for NPM. So we're going to have to think of some like reasonable way of getting those JavaScript libraries in here while using HTML templating. There's many ways to do that, and we'll just do a little bit of research and figure out the best way to handle it. So we'll get around to that. I don't think we need this anymore. We don't need any notes. So I think that maybe right now the first thing that we need to do, this file is going to grow to be very, very large very quickly. I'm kind of okay with that for right now. I think we'll continue adding logic to this file and then figure out what we want to have happen later on. So let's try to get the list of like contracts just to appear on the screen here. So we want to require Web3. Oh, shoot. We can't really show any information until we have actually created some, I just realized. You know, one thing I'm kind of curious about is contract. Let's see, Ethereum contract, create contract. I'm wondering if a contract can deploy another contract. If that makes like Solidity create contract from contract. Yes. This is pretty much what I want to do right here. Yeah, I think I want to do this. Yeah, I think we might end up doing something like this. Yeah. I need to think over the way this works. So I finished, like the React app got through to a really reasonable place. Like the React version of this application was working out pretty well. Here's the React version right here. The way that this thing worked was anytime that someone wanted to create a new Kickstarter campaign, they would essentially download the source code for the Solidity contract, like the Ethereum contract. They downloaded that and then they deployed it themselves from the browser. We then took the address that that contract had been deployed to, and then we stored it in a very temporary array on the server. So the server got this like very temporary array right here, just based in memory. There is no database, nothing like that whatsoever, that stored a reference to the contract. So the reason for that was that it's once you deploy a contract, it's kind of like just out there and you don't really have a good handle on it. You know, if someone inside the browser deploys a contract, we don't have a great way of somehow just magically figuring out on the server that an instance of our contract just got deployed. So, I'm thinking about how we're going to accomplish this on the server, like on the HTML templating side now. I'm also thinking about some security concerns with the approach we had taken right here. I think that I'm starting to realize that by allowing the client to deploy the contract, that's actually a big deal. The reason it's a big deal is that we had the user download the raw contract file. Like our user, not raw contract, but like the compiled contract. So our user downloaded this Ethereum, the Solidity contract right here, and then they deployed it themselves and then posted the address that that new contract was deployed to back to our server. But I just realized that that is actually a very big deal and probably a very bad idea. And the reason for that is someone could potentially download our contract right here, which we want to have happen. Like it gets sent down to anyone who is attempting to deploy the contract. We could send it down to them. They could potentially modify the contract and then deploy it. And when they modify the contract, they could do like a malicious change to the contract. So the entire idea behind this crowdfunding contract is to put some amount of security around put some amount of security around crowdfunding campaigns. And so anyone who's using our platform, they're using the platform because they're thinking like, oh yeah, this contract is secure because it's been endorsed by like this Kickstart people who would be like me, the developer. So if someone downloaded the contract, modified it in some malicious fashion to like say remove the requirement that all requests to withdraw money have to be approved, they could then deploy that contract and then send the resulting address to my server, which I would then advertise to everyone and say like, hey everybody, like donate money to these things. But little do those people know that they might be donating money to a modified or a malicious contract. So how do we solve that? I think there's two ways to solve it. I think that it's not inherently a bad thing because here's the React.js code. Here is where, right here, where is it? Right here. This is where we accept a address for a contract that has been deployed. I think what we could do is add in some logic right here to go and look at that address and pull the code down for it and compare it to our like official contract. Because you can reference the code inside of a contract after it's been deployed. So maybe we could say that it's not like inherently a security risk. We could probably do a little bit of finagling in there. And if anything, that would be kind of a good solution because it causes money to deploy a contract. And so if someone maliciously edited the contract and then deployed it and tried to pass it off as a real one, we would reject it. Would say, no, you've modified this contract. And they would be out the money that they spent to deploy it, which would actually be good. We would like essentially penalize these people who are trying to cheat us. Okay, so maybe we'll add a to-do here. And we'll say verify, actually this should be the first thing we do, verify contract at given address. So I think that would be the thing that we would have to do here. Okay, so that makes life easy. Not easy, but easier. The other option that we could do here is a like self-deploying contract. So when we start our application up, where'd that thing go? Here it is. So when we start our application up, or like just one time, we could deploy our contract that essentially deploys child contracts. I gotta think about this for a bit. Let's try testing this out in the Solidity browser and just seeing what happens. I'm not like super convinced. Solidity IDE, there we go. I'm not super convinced this is going to work out too smoothly. So let's take a look and see what's happening. All right. Okay, so here is this like factory So the factory spits out new contracts and then saves a reference to it. So the factory here would be like the master contract that we deploy. And then the child contract right here would be the contract is an awful name. But basically this thing right here would be the like crowdfunding campaign that we're trying to spit out. Let's rename this thing just so we can like have some semblance of understanding what's going on. So contracts, new contracts, create, I'm gonna call it crowdfund. Nope, don't want to save it. Okay, so we've got crowdfund, that looks good. It's gonna have a name. New crowdfunds, that's the address. Create crowdfund, that saves a reference. Yeah, this looks good. Okay, so let's take this back over. So this makes a lot more sense as far as naming conventions go. Okay, so this thing is compiled. So now we should be able to run the contract. We are going to look at our factory. So we want to take our factory and we want to create a new instance of this contract. So this is gonna be the part that I don't know is whether or not we have to like pre-fund the contract so that it can create new contracts right there. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but that's my concern right now. So whatever, let's we're going to I don't want to use a injected, I want to use the local, and we're going to attempt to not crowdfund, want factory. There we go. Okay, so we're going to create an instance of factory. So we now have factory that's been created. So now I want to create a new crowdfunding campaign, and this is going to have some name. So I'll say like, I don't know, whatever first. So create crowdfund, unexpected token I and JSON at position 2. Oh, yeah, it's because bytes32 name. I need to get a bytes32. It's got to be an address. Bytes32. I need to find an example of that. String type or bytes32. I kind of want to do like address instead, or like a number ID. I think that makes a lot more sense in the context of what I'm trying to do here. Yeah, we'll do that instead. But let's edit this thing out just a little bit. So I'm going to pull this back over here. Let's get some syntax highlighting, solidity. Do a uint32. Don't want to save. Stop saving. There we go. Wait a minute. uint32. Okay. Get name. New crowdfunds at I. Crowdfund. Oh, yuck. Gee whiz. What's going on here? What's this get name thing doing? Okay, crowdfund, make an instance of crowdfund and assign it to the temporary variable contract, which is going to come from crowdfund from new crowdfunds at I. So uint of I, okay, that makes sense because this is an index. Get name, we don't really need get name here that much. So like get the name of some given contract, whatever, I don't really care about that. We can probably end up deleting this, but I think we'll keep it around right now because we can probably use it for a little bit of like bug testing. All right, so how are we doing now? Let's kill off, I want to kill that contract. Can I kill this thing? Can I not kill this thing? I don't want this contract anymore. Take it away. Whatever. Okay, so I want factory. We're going to create an instance of factory. Here's factory. Now I'm going to create a new crowdfund contract. I'm going to give it an ID of 1, essentially. Okay, so in theory, that's it right there. And now we should be able to get name 1. Invalid opcode constructor should be payable. Debug transaction. Yeah, let's definitely debug this thing, figure out what's going on. Okay. Not a lot going on. I gave it an ID of 1. Oh, because this is supposed to be an index in this case. Okay, that makes sense. So let's go back over to 1, get name at index 0. So in this case, I is an index. So I of 0. Well, that should definitely work. So let's try this out. Let's see what happens. All right, so I want to, yeah, whatever, step into crowdfunds I. Now, I in this case is 0. New crowdfunds. What is this thing? Yeah, that's fine. So I want to reference index at 0. Yeah, that should be fine. And then we've got con.name to return the name. Function get name, names at I. It's going to be assigned. What is this? I feel like this code right here is a mistake. Names at I. I don't really know what's going on with that, but I really get the feeling that that is like not at all intended. Yeah, I think that's I don't really care about that right there. I think that if anything, like get name right here should really be something like get crowdfund, and then we should be like passing in I like index here, if anything. I feel like that's what I want. And then I want to do like returns address. So this will return the address of the crowdfund contract that I'm trying to look up. So new crowd funds at I, or index. Let's be really clear about it. And we're going to return that. I think that makes way more sense than what there was before. So let's try doing this and give this a shot. I should be able to delete these like, oh, there we go. I didn't have enough width. There we go. Much better. Okay, so now we're going to create a new factory. So we're going to create it, and we're going to ask this thing, create crowdfund. I'm going to give it a name of 123. And then I'm going to get the crowdfund at index 0. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think there's really not that much else. I think we could probably add on like a public view here. I'm sure that's what this warning is about. Yeah, we got that one fixed. Probably public that one. Yep, that works. And public this one too. Yeah, that works. All right, the only last error that we have here once a private mark. I don't really care about that right now. So let's do one more test here just to make sure I'm not going crazy. So let's get our factory. We're going to create a new factory. We are going to create a new crowdfund contract. We're going to call it 123. Nope, something just went wrong. What went wrong? Oh, wait, no, this was the like constructor right here. Oh. Get crowdfund. Name, push that thing in. Yeah, something went wrong right here. Yeah, we need to look at this. Oh, I'm running the wrong function. That's why. All right, let's try this again. So we'll clear it out. I want the factory. I want to create the new factory. Now we get the invalid opcode right here. And I see that repeated very frequently. Why? I don't really know why it's trying to run this thing immediately. Get crowded. Like, who's calling this? I'm not calling this. I think we'll just kind of forget that little error for right now. I think that's not super relevant. So I now want to create a crowdfund. So I'm going to give it name of 123. I want to do another one of 1234. Let's clear the log here to make sure I'm not going crazy. Okay, that looks good. So now I should be able to get the crowdfund contract at index of 0. There's the address of that one, and then we've got get crowdfund of 1, which is address right there. Okay, so I think this is working out. The only big issue that I see right now is I kind of feel like this contract, I had been hoping that when we called new right here, this would like deploy a new contract. It kind of feels like it is. Like this is giving us an address, which should be like address that is completely set. I feel like I should really be able to, yeah, let's try to copy this thing right here. There we go. Now I really feel like I should be able to look at crowdfund and retrieve the contract at this address. So let's try this. Yes, I can. All right, cool. It all works. Thank goodness. Cool. All right. So now we have some reasonable ability here to have like some contract, like some factory that will spin up instances of this other contract right here. So that's super cool. The reason for that is that the reason it's cool is that we can put together a contract that looks like this right here. We can deploy it like one time, that's it, deploy it. And then in the future, anytime that someone wants to make a crowdfunding campaign, rather than sending them the entire contract file, we can just tell them, hey, you need to call the create crowdfund method on this factory contract, and that will automatically create an instance of crowdfund that belongs to them. That is what we want to do. Now, I just realized the one thing that's kind of awkward here is that one really important part of creating the contract is marking the owner, like the person who created it. When we call new right here, I wonder if the, well, we can figure that. We can pass in, yeah, okay. We can figure that part out. That's not a big deal. Okay, so I think I'm happy with this. So I think we'll use this pattern on this go through here because it's actually pretty interesting and a really good example of why we would care about making more than one contract inside of a single contract file. So I like this a lot. So we're going to make some directory inside of this folder to house all of our like Ethereum logic stuff. So I'll make dir ether. Inside of here, we're going to truffle init. So these are the files that we really care about. All of our Ethereum logic. Let's also make a get ignore file before I forget. Inside of here, we'll ignore node modules. Okay, so now I want to make a new contract. I want to call this new contract crowdfund factory.sol. I want to pull in the like factory portion of this contract. And I'm going to pull in my old crowdfund contract, or not like old one, but the real one. So this is the real crowdfunding contract right here. This is the thing that like people can send money to or whatnot. It's like the real backbone of what's going on. The factory contract is like for just record keeping basically and keeping track of all the different crowdfunding campaigns that have been issued. So I don't think we care about this names thing at all. We might eventually for like various reasons, but I don't think we really need to right now. Let's see. So we're going to deploy this thing and then we're going to create a crowdfund name right here. So we need to pass through all the constructor arguments that are required of the crowdfund to that. And the only real thing that we care about is the minimum. We'll eventually add on something else, but I'm going to take care of that later once I have a better feeling for how like all this stuff is really going to fit together. So it's going to be a uint. We'll be really explicit about it. Really minimum. We're going to make a crowdfund contract. We're going to pass through the minimum. We're going to get back the address of this like new crowdfunded contract. And then we got new crowdfunds, and we're going to push in new crowdfund. Okay, so that looks good. Now the issue that we will very soon have is one that we had on our crowdfund contract, and that is that we cannot return a dynamically sized array, which this is right here, from a Solidity contract. And we can actually see that in action. If we look back here at factory, get crowdfund, oh, we didn't mark this as public. Let's drop off this names junk here. I don't really care about that stuff. Get crowdfund, I don't care about that. New crowdfund, push, yes, that looks good. Okay, we're gonna test this all again and just kind of like verify this. It's gonna be the best way to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna clear out my log here. I'm gonna select a factory, I'm gonna create the factory. I'm then going to create a new crowdfund contract with a name of 123. There it is. Now I should new crowdfunds on factory. Oh, it's not marked as public. That's why I got to mark it as public. Okay, let's try this again. So we're going to do like so. We're going to create a new one here for factory. Okay, there's our factory. Now this time around, new crowd funds is public, so I can look at particular elements within that thing. So we'll create contract 1, 4, 5, 6. That's contract 2. So now it's 2 children. So if I look at new crowd funds, like period, UN 256 call. I mean, like some details. Can we see details on this thing? So it defaults to 0. Yeah, okay, very good. So I can get back the first contract I had created by passing in 0. That's at index 0. And I get back the second one that I created by passing in index 1, like so. So here's the second contract. This one right here should have a, what's the word I'm looking for? This one should have a name of like 456. Let me copy the darn thing. Okay, so now we will toggle over to crowdfund. We're going to look for the one at this particular address, and we get back 456. Cool. All right. So I want this to be public because I want everyone to be able to access that thing. And then I want to be able to get the length of new crowd funds so we understand how many contracts we are working with at any given time. So get approvers count should really turn into, and I really hate this name, new crowd funds. Like, what is that? We'll do public crowd funds. Or deployed, that's even better. Deployed crowd funds, that's probably for the best. Get deployed count. And this will be deployed crowd funds dot length. Looks good. Returns 256. All right. So I think we're in a good spot. So this is our contract. We now want to deploy it. So we'll do deploy crowd fund JS, like so. Do I have a deployment script for this one? Yes, I do. Basically that. So we're going to deploy, crowdfund factory. Yeah. Crowdfund factory. There we go. This one doesn't take any arguments, so we'll take that off. Create crowdfund. Yeah, all right, I think we're looking pretty good here. We don't need this anymore. So now, totally like apart from the server. Don't care about the server at all at this point. I want to deploy this contract. So inside my ether directory, we're gonna run truffle develop. We'll get truffle develop -- log to print out any logs that are generated. And then I think we will migrate. Oh, we got to compile. No. Truffle develop. Got to compile. Okay, and then we're going to migrate. Oh no, so something went wrong here. Can't find artifacts for Crowdfund Factory. I probably changed the name at some point. Crowdfund Factory. Factory. All right, Crowdfund Factory. There we go. You know, something that's kind of interesting here is I have one contract here. This one references crowdfund. I think we're going to be okay. Let's look at what happens in the build. Okay, so they all get spit out as separate things. So we do want crowdfund factory here. So that should be fine. Although, factory. Why is that thing called factory? Let's look at factory and see what's inside this thing. Crowdfund. Huh. I'm not entirely sure. No, this looks correct. Contract crowdfund. Use defined type. We need to do something that references like the crowdfund contract. Give me something like, what's some unique word from this thing? I'm not entirely sure that minimum contribution, yeah, that's what we want. Show me this. Okay, so minimum, okay, yeah, all right. So what I'm doing right now is I'm not entirely sure that the, I've got these two contracts both sitting inside the same file. They both get compiled out to two separate files, and so I was kind of curious as to whether or not they actually, whether or not, basically I was afraid that when I deployed the crowdfund factory contract, I was afraid that it would have no idea what the crowdfund contract was. That was my fear, but I think that we're okay. Okay, so we want crowdfund factory. That's the thing that we really care about here. So let's find our script here. Yeah, this looks good, looks good, looks good. So we're going to try to migrate again. We're going to compile first. Okay, that's good, and we're going to migrate. All right, very good. Okay, so that's out there on our local network ready to be tested. So now we want to start putting in some stuff that allows someone to actually like deploy essentially, well, we want them to be able to, we want our users to now be able to call the crowdfund factory contract. That's what we care about. The other thing we need to be aware of is the address of this, crowdfund factory. This address right here represents our factory, and I feel like this almost needs to be hard-coded into our application. I'm not 100% sure on that yet, but we'll run with that assumption right now. Factory address. I think that's got to be like hard-coded in here. Because once we deploy it, it's never going to change. Like, that's pretty much it. I think don't think there's any situation where we would want to change it. If we ever have like multiple versions of crowd-funded contracts, well, we could figure that out. For right now, I think we can just deal with this. Okay, so that's good. RPlay, you had a question, have I ever worked with machine and deep learning? You know, that is something that I have really, really avoided. My take on machine learning, deep learning, all that stuff is, I don't know. I think it's the kind of thing where you have to like really be an expert to use effectively. I think that my fear is that if I got into machine learning or whatever else, I would like, it's getting to be the end of the day. I'm starting to get burnt out, so I'm losing my train of thought here real easily. I guess my fear with machine learning, deep learning, is that there is too much functionality that is tied up inside the libraries that you use. Whenever someone says like, oh look, handwriting recognition in like 3 lines of code, well, it makes me feel like I'm not really writing or understanding what's going on there. Kind of feels like it's a little bit too easy when it's at that point. So if I ever got into machine learning, deep learning, I would want to do it at a very low level and really understand what was going on behind the scenes. That's like my sole interest in it. And that is a incredible amount of time investment. And so that's why I haven't really gotten around to it yet. I like the Ethereum stuff, I like way more because it's really, it's a requirement to really understand what's happening. Like you can't just start throwing some libraries together and expect stuff to work. I mean, if you've been watching my stream yesterday and today, you've seen how much I've struggled against these libraries to get them to do what I want them to do. So the libraries, if anything, right now are almost an impediment to learning stuff. So it feels, I don't know, it just feels more satisfying to me right now to work with the Ethereum stuff because it feels like I'm really learning stuff and accomplishing, whereas I would kind of fear that I was not with machine learning stuff if I was just using some library. Anyways, I think I only got a couple more minutes in me because I'm kill for a snack. Okay, but I think we still got some time left here to get to the stuff. So let's start easy here. Let's just like get some stuff rolling. I really want to figure out how to make sure that a user can take this factory address and use it to create a new instance of the crowdfunding contract. factory address. So we're going to send this down to our template and just get it to show up on the screen. I mean, it's really nothing, but it's very, small wins are important. So on our index page, we don't want the index page just yet. We want the new page. So here, I want to reuse my layout like so, more or less. And this will be something like create a campaign. And then we'll do a div with like, I don't know. I don't even know that we really need a div. I think all we really need is like a button that says something like, oh, we need a form. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we want a form. We want a label that has content of like, campaign name. Oh, we don't have names on campaigns just yet. So we'll say like minimum contribution. That's really the only field that we have right now. So this will be an input. I don't think we need anything else on there. And then we'll do like a button that says like create. So let's try this out. Again, I haven't worked with Pug since it was called Jade. So I hope I'm not making any giant syntax errors here. So we'll see how we're doing. Okay, so that's the contract index. I don't want that. Oh, I don't think I've even hooked up a route for this other contract yet. So this, oh, contracts index. Yeah, I was sending that in. That's an error right there. So we want to do app.get contracts new recres like so. And this time around, we're going to render contracts new with that thing. And I am not yet printing out the factory address. So let's make sure we get that as well. We'll do a div location of factory address, whatever. I think this is good enough. I'll do a span inside of there. I think this is how you do this stuff with Pug. That looks kind of right. I don't know, we'll get a big error if it's not. Let's make our sure our server restarts. Yeah, we're good. And we're gonna go contracts new. All right, so here's our address. We're gonna set up some like minimum contribution level, and then we will attempt to create the contract. And then in theory, that should pop open MetaMask, and MetaMask should say like, hey, do you want to do blah, blah, blah? And yeah, we definitely want to. Okay, so I think that what we want to do now is make sure that once this form gets submitted, we're going to want to make sure that we attempt to actually create the contract. So that's where this like Web3 stuff is going to come into play. I think that we'll take a really easy, simplistic solution to this right now. That just makes use of the built-in Web3 provider that's included with MetaMask. So here's like Web3, here's the built-in provider. And I think that what we should be able to do is like Web3eth send transaction, and then we would specify like from, which would be me. Me is not defined here, I'm just saying for example. And I want to, shoot, how do I invoke? I want to essentially invoke a function on this deployed contract here without really knowing any of the details about the contract. And I've only been making use of Truffle contracts to kind of like abstract that stuff away. So this is definitely new territory right here. So I think I need to do a little bit of research first. What I do know is that we're gonna have to actually like run some code here whenever this form gets submitted. So we can at least hook that up first. Gee whiz, we're gonna have to look up how to do form submittal with Pug because oh, this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. Pug event handler. I'm not gonna lie. I have to look it up. I think we're gonna have to use jQuery. Yeah, we'll use some jQuery. Actually, maybe we won't even use. I think we'll use some like raw. We'll do ID create contract. Yeah, that'll be good. We'll do a script tag. Let's start off easy with the console log of hi. Just make sure things work. Okay. Only name blocks and mixins can appear at the top of the template. That's fine. So we're going to just stick this in like so. And then we will refresh, unexpected token. Okay, so obviously I declared the script tag very poorly here, so let's see what's going on. Oh, yuck. Oh, gah. Well, I'm supposed to be able to... Gee whiz. Okay, console class. Okay, yeah. Obviously not doing my script tag too well there, so we're going to have to look up how we add some JS code to this thing. Hey, Rplay, I'll catch you later, man. Thanks for sticking around all day. Hopefully it's been interesting. It's great to have you around to help me reason through these things and whatnot. So I'll catch you later. All right, so we really want to do pug with script tag and put in some just raw JavaScript. That's what I really care about. I was really under the impression that we'd be able to do this very easily, but script include JS script source script dot. That's it. Script dot. Let's try that. Okay. And there's our console log. Okay, so we are good there. Next thing we need to do is add in our event handler. Oh boy, this is going to be some basic JavaScript here. Oh yeah, and I also did this ID incorrectly. I think we're probably supposed to do something like that. Let's try that. Show me an example. I really wish they'd put all their examples on just one page here. That would make my life way easier. All right, let's just verify, make sure we got the correct form ID. Cool. So now we're going to do a document.query selector for create contract. Then we'll do add, was it like add event listener? Yeah, that's a function. I know it is. We're going to watch for submit. Yeah, and I think we're close enough. That's good enough. Okay, so we're going to do like so, submit, and then we're going to do, yeah. Event.prevent. Okay, let's try this out and see how we're doing. Let's refresh, and then we're just going to submit the form right away and just verify that I remember my vanilla.js. Yes, I do. Fantastic. Okay, so now we're sitting inside of here and we want to somehow take the form. Let's make sure we can easily retrieve the value within this input right here. Let's do 1, 2, 3. So we should have like a fields property or something like that. I forget. Maybe we'll look at like target. Target 0. That feels really not correct at all. Oh man, I'm gonna have to review my basic JavaScript. Oh gee whiz. Maybe we'll just end up hard coding this stuff right now, but we'll figure that out in a moment. Okay, so really what I want to do here is now attempt to use web3eth to send a transaction, or really just invoke a method on this thing right here. Like that is my goal, without a doubt. The other thing I would really like to do is figure out some way to inject some code into the script tag. Like I want to inject the contract address directly in. Probably something around interpolation is what I probably want. Yeah, probably that right there. Let's give this a shot. Factory address equals factory address. And then we'll do a console log factory address, like so. Okay. Well, that didn't work. Oh no, it did. We just are not seeing. Oh, it's because it's on the. Yeah. Okay. So it's getting casted as a number, so we really need to have that thing as a string. Oh, like so. All right. So there's the address that we're going to attempt to send our money to. So that's feeling pretty good. What's next? Next, we need to figure out how to get Web3 to invoke a specific method on contract. So for that, we're definitely going to need to look at some Web3 documentation. So let's take a look. All right, documentation. Maybe we really just need to do a search for this thing as opposed to look at the documentation. So what I really want to do here, let's put this thing to words. What I really want to do, I want to, let's do some cleanup too while I'm thinking about it. Web3 invoke contract. Yeah, invoke contract method. I think I might have searched for this before. Maybe I did look this up. Yeah. I don't have the ABI. I really don't want to have the ABI. Web3 Eth contract. Let's look that up. API reference. So I think it might be required. ABI array contract my method. Ooh, that would be really nice, but I really doubt I can do that. Based on the method type. Oh, that's super relevant right there. Okay. Contract object exposes the contract's methods which can be used to common parameters. Contract methods. I don't have a contract instance yet, though. That's the issue. Contract. This really is assuming that we have access to the contract, which we do not have at all. Or it's not that we don't have it, it's that I don't want to have to get it. That's the big issue. Hey, by the way, anyone who's still listening around here, if you have any questions about what's going on, man, feel free to ask. I'd be happy to answer. Talking through this stuff makes it actually a lot easier for me, believe it or not. So let's see if we can do this without ABI. Invoke contract method without ABI. Can we do that? How to call a contract method using ethcall JSON. Doesn't have blockchain. This is all not relevant. Don't care about it. Don't care. Flatten your code assigned to a variable. Don't care. Don't care. Don't care. Don't care. If you want to access your function to run outside this get session. So I think that we probably do need that darn, I think we do need the ABI, unfortunately. Let's look at all the methods we have to work with a contract here. Do we have a good list? I don't even know if we have a good list of stuff. Take me to the top. Let's look from the, no, to the top. Contract ABI. Okay, here we go. This is what I was looking for. So send raw transaction, no. Call object, no. Sign object, no. Contract events. What I really want to do is retrieve a IBAN ABI. Let's look up ABI. Contract, which means to initiate contracts on an address. Not relevant. Not relevant. Contract ABI at address. Really not. Contract ABI, contract ABI. ABI definition. I think we have to include the ABI now that I think about it. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to get around it. All right, whatever. So we're going to pull in our const contract ABI equals require. We're just gonna have to assume that we have this always compiled. So we're gonna do, let's see, views, no, ether build contracts crowd fund factory.json. All right, that's what we want. So that's our ABI. Now we're going to pass this along. Oops. We're going to pass this thing along to that form. We need to make sure that we inject it into the form. What do we call this thing? Contract API. Okay, I did fix it. Contract ABI. Now down here we're going to do web3.eth.contracts ABI at factory address. That's looking pretty strong. I lost my darn doc again for no good reason. Let's fix that really quickly. Get our displays. Fix this thing up. All right. Better. All right, so back over here. So web3eth contract. I want like .at, yes, at address, excuse me, and then my awesome method, like so. So send transaction to a function. Shorthand style at address. Yeah, this is right. This is good. Okay, the thing that we actually want to call here is called create crowd fund. Except we need to triple check on the arguments that we need to pass to this thing. So what do we end up with here? We got crowdfund factory. The minimum, that's what we care about, the minimum. We're going to hard code that at factory, but what's that thing called? Create crowdfund. Dot create crowdfund, minimum 100, whatever. So let's give this a shot and see what happens. All right. I think we're reloading, or we have a really bad typo, one or the other. Factory address. Missed a comma. Yep. Okay. We're back. Okay, so that did not work out the way I was hoping. Yeah, we don't need to. We might have to JSONify that darn thing. Yeah, we need to JSON. Okay, ABI JSON dot stringify, and then we're going to pass in that JSON right there, JSON.parse, like JSON capital J. There we go. All right, let's give this a shot. So now this, oh no, shoot. All right. Oh, this thing got wrecked. Oh man, that's really long too. I wonder how large that contract is. New contracts preview. We want this thing, and we want to like size back here. 90 kilobytes. Oh my goodness, you're kidding me. I don't know if there's any way to get around that. Yeah, I don't know that we could get around that unless we like strip down the ABI manually. I don't really want to do that. I think we're just going to deal with that for right now. We'd figure out what to do with it in a bit. More importantly, yeah, these quotes in here are definitely not going to be doing what we want. So we're doing some interpolation here. Let's let's put this outside and just put it right here and play around with it for a little bit. See what happens when we start parsing it. Okay, so now we should be able to ABI JSON. All right, JSON.parse. Yeah, not surprised. Not surprised at all. So we need to figure out some much better way of injecting the stuff in here. How are we going to do this? So we are stringifying it. And then if we do this, it definitely does not work. We just get object, which is not at all surprising. ABI JSON. Okay, so I think we need to look at some pug documentation again. But on pug as well, interpolation works not only on tag interpolation. Nope, don't want it. You don't have to play it safe. You can buffer unescaped values. I think that we want to like not escape this stuff, unfortunately, for better or for worse. I think that's what we really want to do. £, yeah. Although I feel like, oh well, it's JSON, so I think we should be okay. Let's give this a shot. ABI JSON, and I want to JSON.stringify this. Stringify again. All right, let's try this again. All right, better. JSON.parse ABI JSON. Not better, almost better. All right, so why oh why? I feel like it's due to the use of double quotes here. Oh, well, we're at a point where it doesn't matter if we just stick the whole thing in, I feel like. No, that's not right. Well, we'll just try every variation. No, of course not. What happens if we just dump that entire thing in? Okay, no, it has to be like an object. Oh, I hate this. Oh, this is not the first time this has happened to me where I'm just... Oops. Okay, let's try this. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so now this time, let's do elements. Yeah. Not the way we expect, because double quotes, double quotes. Everyone's unhappy. Man, how do we get that stuff out of there? We can't parse it, apparently. Stringifying it. JSON parse window.avi JSON. Expect token position 1620. 16920. Oh, shoot. That's the Web3 stuff. Let's put it over here and see what happens. Oh, come on. What's the ... though? Oh, that could not be it. You kidding me? Is it too long? Well, I think I'm being crazy here. All I want is the ABI, and this is not just the ABI. That's everything. So let's Let's get a little bit smarter here. So let's get the factory. The only thing we want is the ABI. That's it. Okay. Problem solved. Dot ABI. Boom. All right. Refresh. Come on. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. Yep. Okay. So now back inside of our template, we're going to do const ABI JSON. We're going to stick that in. We're going to parse it out. That forms our contract. We can call it create crowdfund. That should pop open MetaMask. Let's give this a shot. Well, that doesn't matter just yet. Create Web3 Eth contracts is not a function. Great. Oh boy. All right. Web3 Eth contract, not contracts. Web3 Eth contract. All right. Create. Okay. We have to have a callback. That is fine. I can deal with that. Yeah, call that thing, and then we've got the error or whatever. Okay. So Web3 Eth contract at thing. Boom. Boom. All right. Okay, so this is looking better. This is going to deploy our stuff. We're going to submit. We fail. Doesn't have the correct nonce. Oh, you kidding me. All right, let's restart MetaMask. All right, friends, I think that we're done for the day. It's time to get a snack. Thank you for watching.